Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you who haven't yet done so, please press subscribe. 2017 has been a stellar year for boxing, and we are now at the close of 2017. At the time of recording, it's the 18th of December. We're still a week off Christmas. We're nearly 2 weeks off the new year. But from a boxing perspective, 2017 is pretty much been and gone. And with Billy Joe Saunders versus David Lemieux last week, we've pretty much come to the end of meaningful boxing action for 2017. Now, between now and the new year, we'll be doing quite a lot of coverage looking back at 2017, assessing how good a year it's been. We'll be doing things like Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year. We may even do a special of that sort of variety on the podcast this week, we shall see. But in this video, I wanted to look ahead to 2018 because it occurs to me that whilst 2017 has, by consensus, been a very, very strong year from boxing, we're actually in a position now where 2017 can be a platform for 2018, and 2018 can be every bit as good or potentially even better. So in this video, I wanted to do a brief run through of fights for 2018 and look at what has already been confirmed for the new year. Now, of course, we're still in 2017. The schedule is going to get a heck of a lot busier. We're going to see a lot more fights added to the schedule in 2018. But it's interesting how many fights of note have already been confirmed as of December 2017. So in this particular video, we're going to look ahead to that. And we're going to talk about notable fights. So January 2018, 2 or 3 fights worth looking at towards the end of the month. Starting off with Errol Spence Jr. versus Lamont Peterson. Errol Spence Jr., for me, been slightly disappointing how inactive he's been since the fight with Kell Brook. I'd have liked to see him capitalise on that platform and stay active and start to move forward in his career, and sort of use that Kell Brook fight as a platform to launch himself to superstardom. It's disappointing he's been inactive, but the Lamont Peterson fight is a good fight. Lamont Peterson isn't elite, but he is a world level fighter. He's a fighter who's been on the scene for a long time. He's a fighter who consistently performs at a high and respectable level, and it will be a good test for Errol Spence Jr. It's not a fight that I expect an upset in, because Errol Spence for me is a world level talent, but it's going to be a very, very interesting fight, and certainly one that I will be watching myself. So that gets January off to a bang. I'm just looking at the date. I think the proposed date for that is the 21st, 20th, Saturday the 20th in America. It'll be the 21st when, by the time it hits our screens in the UK. The week following that, we have a semi-final in the World Boxing Super Series. And it's a good semi-final. Alexander Usyk versus Marius Bradis. In hindsight, looking back at these guys at the start of the tournament, I appreciate that Usyk's star has risen and perhaps Bradis' star has somewhat lessened, but you could make a strong case at the start of the tournament that these were the 1 and 2 consensus cruiserweights at the beginning of the World Boxing Super Series. And even though Usyk will start this fight as a good favourite, it's a competitive matchup. It's the biggest fight of Usyk's career to date, in my opinion. Certainly the biggest fight of Bradis' career to date, and I'll very much be looking forward to that one. Although, yet again, no surprises are anticipated. As we go into February, the action is thick with World Boxing Super Series action. Murat Gassiev versus Junier Dorticos on the 3rd of February. For me, very exciting fight. 2 guys who are a little bit of unknown commodities. 2 guys who I've started watching a lot of recently. 2 guys who I rate very, very highly, but kind of have question marks over both guys as well, because I think they still have further questions to be answered. Junier Dorticos really is a complete unknown. He looks very, very good. Clearly they're both heavy-handed guys, but there's so many tests you want to see him see. My instinct, having looked at these guys, is that Murat Gassiev should start as the favourite. He looks like a cruiserweight version of Golovkin to me. I know they're trained by the same setup, and Gassiev looks like a very, very accomplished fighter. But that could be an all-action fight. These are both guys who don't mess around. They throw heavy leather from the first round, and the winner of that fight really is going to obviously go towards the final and fight the winner of Bradis Usyk later on in the year. So that could really set things up nicely. As we move forward into February, Callum Smith versus Jurgen Brima. Interesting fight. For me, there's a substantial upset potential in that fight. Jurgen Brima is a fighter who I've actually bet on at 50 to 1 to win the World Boxing Super Series, and I'm amazed that you can still get prices as high as 5 to 1 for him to beat Callum Smith. I really am. You know, I think Jurgen Brima is a very, very, very live dog in that fight. He's been competing up at light heavyweight. He made easy work of Rob Brand, and Callum Smith for me is a guy who is potentially vulnerable to a boxer. Just look at the jabs that he took out of the hands of Eric Skoglund, you know, when they fought in their first fight. So, yeah, I think that Jurgen Brima Callum Smith fight is an interesting one. It may be a bit of a clash for the stylists, for the purists, sorry, in terms of the way it breaks down. Could be a lot of long distance jabbing, etc. But I think that's an intriguing fight. And a week after that, 17th of February, we've got one of the biggest fights in British boxing. Another World Boxing Super Series semi-final. George Groves versus Chris Eubank Jr. Look, we've discussed that on the channel previously. Of course, we'll be discussing it again. That's one of the biggest fights in boxing, especially in Britain. But what's interesting is with these fights happening in February and January, you know, the World Boxing Super Series of Cruiserweight in January and Feb, the World Boxing Super Series semi-finals in Super Middleweight in February. You know, there's ample time for the finals of these fights to be fought June, July, August, September, that sort of period. So, you know, bear in mind how strong 2018 is already shaping up to be when you factor in that those finals will take place in 2018. Moving into March, the return of Kell Brook versus Sergey Rabchenko. Good to see Special K, Kell Brook back. Again, no surprises anticipated against Sergey Rabchenko. It should be a comeback fight that Brook looks good in if he still retains his ability. But it will be interesting to see what kind of shape Kell Brook is in and how he looks at 154. Moving into late March, early April, the suggestion is that Anthony Joshua will be busy and he will be out during that period. A lot of rumours seeming to indicate Joshua Parker will be happening during that period. We'll believe it when we see it. We'll believe it when it's confirmed. I understand there's still negotiations taking place in that fight. But AJ should be out, and that will add only to the mix of the springtime of boxing. Another fight that's rumoured for that period of spring is Lee Selby versus Josh Warrington. Good fight in Britain. Selby will start as a big favourite, but it could be an entertaining scrap, most certainly. Moving on to May, David Haye versus Tony Bellew. The fight's been rescheduled. The confirmed date at the O2 Arena, May the 5th. Look, a lot of hardcore boxing fans look down their nose at this one. It's one that I look forward to. The two guys put together create a great build-up in terms of the cocktail, and you know, together they act as a cocktail to make such a good build-up. And I've got to say, whilst people may moan about the first fight and how it ended and the injuries, etc., going back into this, you have to say that this is almost approaching a 50-50 fight now. This is a hard fight to call, and that always makes for interesting boxing discussion. So, hey, Bellew, you know, even the people who are sitting at home moaning about it, I can guarantee you'll be watching come May the 5th. The rumour is that later in May, Gennady Golovkin will rematch Saul Alvarez. You know, all the rumblings from the recent fights this weekend where Billy Joe Saunders was out fighting in North America suggest that Golovkin Alvarez will be getting it back on, and potentially getting it back on in Cinco de Mayo in the month of May, which again will be one of the biggest fights in boxing, two of the biggest superstars in world boxing. So all in all, I think the early signs are very good for 2018. Very, very good. The World Boxing Super Series alone is creating a series of absolutely tantalising classes. Hey Bellew, love it or hate it, it's going to be a very, very, very big fight. Golovkin Canelo is going to be a very, very, very big fight. The return of Kell Brook. Let's talk Anthony Joshua. You know, if Anthony Joshua Parker happens, he's able to take 3 fights that year. Maybe he takes Parker in the spring, 1 in the summer, 1 in the winter. Joshua's going to be in big name fights, potentially against the likes of Alexander Povetkin, who became his mandatory on the WBA side. You know, Parker and Povetkin, 2 of the top names in heavyweight world boxing. The return of Tyson Fury, another one to throw into the mix. The return of Keith Thurman, another one to throw into the mix. Errol Spence out in January, as we've discussed. Really, really going to be a fantastic year for boxing. Interested to see what the plans are for Vasyl Lomachenko, you know, who's put himself right at the top of the pound-for-pound list of late. You know, will he maybe step in the ring with another guy who's on the pound-for-pound list, Mikey Garcia? Is that a clash that could happen? Is that a clash that would lead to You know, huge numbers. What about the light heavyweight division? Will we see Kovalev looking to unify belts? Will he face Beterbiev? Will he face Bivol? Will he finally face Adonis Stevenson? Will Andre Ward return? You know, so much to discuss. What will Billy Joe Saunders do next? Understand that he's planning to get out and stay active in springtime of next year. How will the likes of Daniel Dubois and Anthony Yard and Joe Joyce continue their rise? What about the likes of Josh Kelly? Huge amount of ingredients for 2018. Lots of boxing. BT Sports Box Nation becoming an increasing competitor. ITV becoming an increasing competitor. Who knows? Maybe we'll see more on Channel 5. Maybe Josh Taylor will be the man to drive forward boxing on Channel 5. Maybe we'll see more on YouTube pay-per-view. Maybe Hughie Fury will appear on such an event again. Interested to see how it plays out. 2017 has been a fantastic year. Stay tuned. We'll be reviewing 2017 in full. And as 2017 comes to a close in terms of boxing action, start to get excited for 2018. You know, I'm really convinced it's going to be a mega year ahead. Thanks for tuning in. If you've appreciated the content, please hit subscribe. Please smash the thumbs up button. Leave your comments in the section below. What are you most looking forward to from the already confirmed fights? What matchups do you hope get made? Let me know your thoughts. Many thanks for tuning in.